Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sendra, Sokshara Parama Swarat, Sa Yeva Vishnu, Sa Pranaha, Sa Kalogni, Sa Chandramaha, Yah Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sendra, Sokshara Parama Swarat, Sa Yeva Vishnu, Sa Pranaha, Sakalogni Sa Chandramaha. Sa Brahma, he is Brahma. Sa Shiva, he is Shiva. Sa Indra, he is Indra. Sa Akshara, he is imperishable. Paramam, supreme. Swarat, self-luminous. Sayeva Vishnu, Sa Pranaha, he alone is Vishnu. He is the prana, the vital air. He is Kala, time. He is Agni, the fire. He is the Chandrama, the moon. If you split word to word, this is what the text means. Saha, Saha, throughout the mantra, he used the word Saha. Saha refers to the Brahman, the reality. The reality is unknown. We do not know the self, the Brahman. So the Shastras do not flout the fundamental principle of education. The principle of education is to describe something unknown through the known terms. They use the known to convey the unknown. Now, all that you heard, what the mantra is mentioning, are all known factors. We know Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, Indra, the prana, time, fire, moon. These are all known factors. So the fundamental principle, why are these terms or these known factors used to describe the unknown, is so that there is a certain association of thought. Whenever you see the fire, whenever you breathe prana, whenever you see the moon, whenever you relate to time, whenever you go through these experiences, there is a conscious association of thought to the higher, the highest being the unknown reality. So if you relate to why are these various connotations, why are these various terms used, is only to remind us that all these known are meant to get to the unknown. Otherwise, it is difficult to get to the unknown. Point one. The second point is the known are only pointers to the unknown. The known have got nothing to do with the unknown. The known are confined to the terrestrial world. Now, first thing we said is the known, the principle of education is to move from the known to the unknown. Point one. The second is we must also understand these known terms are only pointers. It is not the unknown. All these known terms are confined to the terrestrial world. And the supreme Brahman is the transcendental. So all the terrestrial only points to the transcendental. It has terrestrial is not the transcendental. So we're making two simple points. You need to have these all factors because you move from the known to the unknown. That's point one. The second point we are saying is that all these terms, all these pointers belong to the terrestrial realm, and this terrestrial has got nothing to do with the transcendental. You have to go beyond the terrestrial to reach the transcendental. All right. So keeping these two simple principles in mind, let's understand what the implication of these terms mean. So as I've said, Saha, throughout the verse, he says, Saha, 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 Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sa Indra, Sa Akshara, Sa Eva Vishnu, Sa Pranaha, Sa Kalaha, Sa Chandramaha. So Saha, Saha, all the while he says Saha refers to the Brahman. First, Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, here uses Lord Shiva. Now, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva are the three forces that govern the terrestrial world. So when you worship Lord Brahma, Shiva, or Vishnu, you are actually worshipping the powers which are manifesting in the terrestrial world. Brahma is said to be the Lord of creation. Shiva is said to be the Lord of destruction. And where there is construction, creation, and destruction, there is a maintenance, which is Lord Vishnu, as we all understand. So Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva are only saying that the world is an expression of these three principles of creation, destruction, and maintenance. So you should gracefully accept every aspect of life, whether be it creation or whether be it destruction. It is all Lord's play. We don't understand why and how, but it is play of the Lord, isn't it? When somebody passes away, you don't have to complain, why is there a loss? Why is there so much destruction happening in the world? Everything is Lord's play, isn't it? The other day we were using the terms Prabhava and Pralaya, the creation and dissolution. Everything that is born has to die. It's all the play of the Lord. So in the process of birth and death, everything is maintained. Now, how is the day maintained? The night died, morning is born. Morning dies, afternoon is born. Afternoon dies, evening is born. Evening dies, night is born. Night dies, morning is born. The day is maintained, isn't it? Infancy dies, childhood born, childhood dies, youth born, youth dies, manhood born, manhood dies, old age born, old age dies, infancy born. The process of this maintains life. If there is no death, there is no life. So life means birth and death. So don't reject death. You have to accept death as gracefully as you accept birth. So there's nothing terrible, there's nothing abominable in death, nothing abominable. So Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu. This refers to the gross world, the physical world. Indra refers to the subtle world. The subtle world is the mind and the intellect. which is the subtle body. Brahma, Vishnu, Shiva refers to the gross world, the physical world. Indra refers to the subtle world, which is the mind and intellect. So Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, and Indra, so these four gods together represent the perishable world. All of them come under the perishable category. Shiva, Indra, Vishnu represents the gross world. Indra represents the subtle world. Both put together, the gross world and subtle world together are perishable in nature. It's not difficult to understand. These are just terms we are giving a deeper understanding what they imply. So, Kashish, I ask you if you can just repeat what I have just said. And then I also answer the question, what is it that is perishable?
Hari Om Guruji. You said just now that Indra represents the subtle world, which is the mind and the intellect, and Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva represent the gross world, which is the creation, destruction, and maintenance of the terrestrial plane. And together they all represent the perishable world.
Perfect. Now I ask you, what is it that is perishable?
What is it that is perishable?
Mm-hmm.
Everything?
Mm-hmm.
I guess maybe our perception of reality. If you were talking about using the known to understand the unknown, everything that we know is what is perishable. That would be my guess.
Everything that you know is perishable. The known is gross and subtle. Well, correctly said. But then ultimately, what is it that is being described as perishable?
Can't be Brahman, like
it has to be Brahman. How can you say can't be Brahman, dear? If you go back to the verse, have I not said how many times he uses the word Saha in the mantra? He is Brahma, he is Vishnu, he is Shiva, he is Indra. So whom is he referring to he as? He is the Brahman. Have I not been very explicit when I started off the mantra? Said Brahman. So Brahman is the perishable world. Are you able to get? He is now the two fundamental principles we must remember. What is it? They're using the known to describe the unknown.
Mm-hmm.
So all these known is nothing but to represent the unknown. The pointers, mere pointers.
Yes.
So ultimately, we must all understand that Brahman is all this perishable is nothing but Brahman.
Understood.
Understood?
I think I only had some confusion because in the verse afterwards it says he is imperishable. But I assume that will connect later and differently.
No, it has to connect. In fact, I can understand the logical thought process. He also, if he did not say the next, which is the akshara, which is imperishable, then you are bringing down Brahman to perishable matter.
Okay.
If he did not say Akshara, you are bringing down God to something perishable. You know, you just take an example. The pot, a pot maker makes a pot with clay. The pot is perishable. The mud is imperishable.
Oh, that makes sense.
See, the pot has a shape and a form. The pot breaks. It is perishable. But the mud that constituted the pot, that is imperishable. But let's say somebody has never ever seen what clay is. And he's asking you to describe what is clay. How would you describe? And all that is there in that apartment is some beautiful clay pots. You would point to that person and say, that is clay. Exactly the same way the master is pointing to the ignoramuses here and saying, this is God. But as the ignorant man who has not seen clay will limit the concept of clay to that form of that pot, he'll confine to the characteristics of the pot, and he'll also confine, or he'll also believe that clay is only to have a name and a form. So you will immediately tell him and say, hey, no, you understood what that is? Okay, now you take his permission, you take a hammer and you break the clay pot, and you mash it up and you show him in a piece of paper. You show all the clay. You put some water and you make it a dough and say, this is clay. He thought clay is that which had a name and a form, which is perishable. And then you say, this is clay, the imperishable in the perishable. There is the akshara in the kshara. It's just music. I tell you, it is music of the highest order in philosophy, the language, the style, the methodology. It's exhilarating. And I get excited as if I'm hearing it for the first time. You know, perhaps you're hearing it for the first time, or maybe you've heard it before, but once it strikes you, you say, wow, how is it connected to the imperishable? Now you're able to draw a connect.
It's pretty cool.
It's cool, is it?
I
Okay.
mean,
I'll have to learn this expression now. It's cool, huh?
Well, yeah, I just didn't think about it from that perspective, but it's very, very like not metaphorical, but very beautiful the way they described it.
It is very beautiful. In fact, in the Shastras, they go one step beyond. In the Shastras, they go, what is it that you read in the Gayatri Mantra? Give the translation. Brahma, Shiva, Indra, and Vishnu are perishable. Kshara. He is imperishable, as we said. He also says he is Paramaha. He is supreme. So you have to connect these three concepts to come up with an idea which gives a true image or grandeur of what Brahman is. The true grandeur of God is Brahman is perishable, Kshara. Brahman is imperishable, Akshara. Brahman is beyond the perishable and the imperishable. It is the Uttama. Uttama means supreme. Paramaha. Paramaha or Uttamaha means supreme, refers to the Uttama Purusha. Throughout the scriptures, they describe Brahman as a supreme being which is beyond the perishable and the imperishable. It is a fascinating concept. A similar idea is brought about in Christianity, in the Bible, as the Son, the Father, the Holy Ghost. It's Brahman is always described in Trinity. The concept of Trinity is perishable, imperishable, and the Supreme Being. So, why is there an introduction of the Uttama Purusha, the Supreme Being? I believe you all should know it. Yes, if he has already introduced the concept of imperishable, why is there an introduction of another term in describing Brahman as supreme? US.
He's beyond the micro and macrocosm. It's imperishable.
Okay, when you say perishable, what is it that is talking of perishable?
The world.
Is it the world micro or macro?
Micro.
Huh? Then
Sorry,
who are you then?
Okay.
The world is a macro, isn't
Macro.
it? You are the micro, the world is a macro. So
Yeah.
if the world macro is perishable, what is the imperishable?
Micro, beyond micro and macro.
Which some you are reading some translation somewhere and you're trying to answer the question. What is the question?
Yeah, a bit confused.
The question is, if he has already brought in the concept of imperishable, why is there an introduction of a new term called Uttama Purusha or Supreme Being, or Supreme as he calls it here? That's the question. Okay. Vasantama.
He's called the Supreme Being because Brahman alone can control, or he is responsible for the perishable and the imperishable. It's because of him, that's why he's called Supreme, somebody who is like a king is called the Supreme.
Well, apart from qualifying the term supreme, even the imperishable is referring to the same reality, no? It's not that the reality is any different. The God which is there in the perishable matter, the mud which is there in the perishable pot, that clay which is there as a lump in your hand, or the clay which is there all over, is the same clay, isn't it? The clay is not any different in a pot, isn't it? It is not any different. But my question is, Brahman is always described in Trinity. We understand perishable and imperishable. If he has already conveyed the concept of God beyond the perishable, and he says is imperishable, sir, I understand what God is, then why is he introducing the concept of the third to say it is beyond the perishable and the imperishable and supreme? There seems to be a reason.
It's transcendental, beyond our comprehension, and transcendental.
Transcendental reality is beyond
Our comprehension.
Beyond our comprehension, right? Okay, that actually answers it, and I'll want somebody who can think along to expand on it. You're right, Ma. So I'll take the second half of the answer. That's the right one. Right, wonderful. Ramji, do you have the answer?
I don't think I mean, I think it is beyond perishable and imperishable. Beyond the perishable and the imperishable is the supreme, because that is the way I was looking at it. That imperishable is beyond perishable, but beyond imperishable and perishable both is the supreme. That means so the many ways in which the supreme is described. I think this is that is the way I was visualizing.
No, indeed, it is beyond the perishable and the imperishable. It is the supreme. But why is there an introduction of the third concept, Uttama Purusha? If you recall, whenever we have come across this beautiful concept, the reason the third entity is introduced in describing Brahman is perishable and imperishable. In fact, imperishable is an intellectual concept. These are all ideas and concepts. So to tell you that you cannot capture God in a mere concept or an idea. It's not an idea where you can grasp it or capture it. Just to tell you that it is beyond the intellectual capacity to grasp or grapple it, he just is beyond it. It's just beyond it. It is supreme. It is beyond it. Point one.
Yeah.
The second reason why they use the word supreme is when you say imperishable, the imperishable is limited to the parameters of the perishable. You draw a boundary. Sir, now I ask you, what is the boundary of the world in your imagination? Because beyond a point, even that perishable world is imaginary, isn't it?
Yeah.
What is the boundary your imaginary knowledge can draw a boundary, sir? What is the boundary?
The universe, which includes all the galaxies, all the, including the sun. Yeah.
The sun and the unknown suns.
Yeah.
The Milky Ways and the far beyond our perceptible knowledge. There are worlds that exist. And science is still unearthing many such realms, isn't it?
Right.
So the boundary of the perishable itself is still vague, is evolving.
Correct.
But we are talking of the imperishable in the perishable. So even if you were to say God is imperishable, you are still limiting to the boundary of the perishable. You can't put a boundary to God. Therefore, he says it's beyond it. You can't limit God to the parameters of the perishable. Another reason, as we already said, is you can't capture God in intellectual concepts. These are the two reasons. There could be more, but primarily these are the two reasons why he says Brahman is Uttama, supreme. So as a seeker, when you and I go to a prayer, to a temple, or worship God, I could be sitting in front of the altar, like there's an altar right next to me. Lord Ganesha is there. It could be Lord Shiva, it could be Indra, it could be any deity. When you sit and worship in front of the Lord, what should be your understanding when you're in the prayer room? That God is not in that form where I am worshiping right now. I can't confine God to that prayer hall or to the forms I bow down to. How narrow is a thought if I bring down God to a particular form and limit it there, when the entire perishable world is God? A boulder which is just lying on the roadside also is Brahman, as much as the carved stone into a form of Ganesha or Lakshmi or whatever it is. There is no difference.
But one question, Guruji, that
Yes, sir. Don't ask a difficult question, sir.
no, sir, nothing is difficult for you. So when you say that Brahman is perishable, imperishable, and supreme, it is perishable only to the extent of the form and name in which it is seen or perceived. The real Brahman is not perishable. It is only the form and name which is perishable. Is that the way to understand it? Because I was having difficulty in understanding that Brahman is perishable, but then I was thinking that it is perishable only in that form and name in which.
So what perishes is the name and the form.
Correct.
It's like the ornament perishes. Anklet, bracelet, ring perishes. The gold in the ornaments don't perish.
Correct.
Gold is imperishable.
Correct.
But sir, you must understand, go back to the principle. Why have they resorted to first describing God as perishable? Why did they have to describe first and foremost God as perishable? Because they go with the principle of known to the unknown. So they are starting with what you know of. What do you know? What is it that you experience? You are experiencing the known world, and the known world is of a perishable nature. So they are saying everything that you experience, the perishable world also is Brahman. Please start worshipping God in the known perishable realm. It's like when I explained Kashish, when that person was asking, can you please explain what is clay? I had no other means of explaining clay other than the pot. I had to resort to that clay pot to describe that clay to an ignorant man. But then I also went one step ahead and destroyed that name and form of a pot and made it as a formless clay, which is the real form of clay. And I also told that person, there's actually clay beyond this small lump, which is in the formless. Clay is everywhere around you in different forms. So you must go beyond that. You get it? The only reason why they have resorted to starting describing Brahman as perishable is that is the known thing to begin with.
Yeah, but in the process, 99.9% of the people develop an attachment to the pot and not to the clay.
Correct. That's
So
a sad
that
part.
attachment is the one which divides people and which actually creates conflicts in the world. And
So the gurus are not breaking the pot, sir. They are
Yeah.
only painting and decorating the pot and making it grander so that you get stuck to the pot. The job of a true guru is to lead you from where you are to realms beyond, not to bind you to what you're holding on to. This is how, so we all have gone through kindergarten, we all have gone through nursery, we have gone through the initial schoolings. But if we had not gone through that, we would not have become PhDs and doctorates in whatever specialized subjects we all have achieved. But we can't argue why did I go through that? You can't argue why. That is essential. But to be stuck there is not acceptable. So people have got stuck to Shiva. People have got stuck to Indra. People have got stuck to Ganesha. People have got stuck to Subramanya. People have got stuck to some form. They have created a personalized God. When God is impersonal, you have developed a personal attachment to God. That is not acceptable as far as spiritual growth is concerned. An idol is required to reach the ideal. But remember, idol is not the ideal. So Shiva is not Brahman. Indra is not Brahman. Brahma is not Brahman. Brahma represents Brahman. Brahma is not Brahman. It's like saying pot is clay. Pot is not clay. Clay has a form and a name. That is clay, but you can't limit clay to a form. Gold is not an anklet. You have given a name and a form and you call that as gold? No, don't limit it to that name and form. How shallow, how narrow is a thought, isn't it? Now, we are not disregarding what is going on. What is not acceptable is you holding on to it as if it is everything. That is the objection these Shastras are taking to. You must grow out of them. And one who grows out of them does not demean or denounce the lower. You only gracefully embrace the higher. You don't denounce those in kindergarten, do you? You understand? They'll also grow out of it one day. But you show them the brighter light and say, this is where you must reach. You don't dismiss them or disregard their practices. A teacher, sir, if a student is every year, the student fails in the 5th standard and keeps on being detained in the 5th standard, what will the teacher do, sir? What will the principal do? 3 years you have been detained in the 5th standard.
You will send him out.
Kick him out of the school because it's a disreputation to the school. 1 year you have missed, you failed, understandable because of COVID. There were no schools, there were no education system has gone failed. 1 year they give you, okay, never mind. Or they may even promote you. So it's understandable what is there in this 5th standard, 6th standard. So they promote you. If you're performing the same level, they will question you and they'll debar you. So you're out of this college, institution, the school. This is the reaction a guru has to someone who doesn't strive and evolve in their spiritual progression. You should not stagnate. Anything that stagnates smells foul. Even the drain water, the drainage water also, if it's flowing, it will not smell. But the fresh water will start smelling foul if it starts stagnating. The most purified water, if it doesn't flow, it will start smelling foul. So even the most evolved amongst us, if we don't strive and grow, we will start stagnating. We will start smelling foul spiritually. The most evolved amongst us in this classroom could be any one of you. If you don't keep evolving, that's the end of your spiritual growth. So it's not where you are you moving forward? So any form of attachment is not acceptable, and spiritual attachment is far greater to get rid of it than worldly attachments, material attachments. Material attachments, you may be detached. Like UK is very detached nowadays, highly detached. Whenever I meet her, she says, Guruji, thanks to your teachings, I'm extremely detached now. But correct, UK?
Yes, sir. Nowadays, I'm not spending any money only. He's not buying anything.
That is good sign, isn't it, sir?
Very good sign, sir.
Very good sign. So at least some benefit of this knowledge is come to you, sir. Direct benefit. Indirect benefit we will talk later, sir. Direct benefit is that your pockets are saved.
Can be diverted to a higher cost.
Absolutely. But Shivaji is saying that you should be detached to the Guru also. Maybe little, not yet, little later.
In the course of time. In the course of time.
Then in the course of time, she will say, who are you? Do I know you? Extreme detachment. Right. So hope this concept is, it's a very, very profound concept. In fact, this is the highest of all philosophies Vedanta talks of, Another concept is obviously illusion, the extrinsic and intrinsic illusion. Vedanta talks is very profound, but one of the very deep concepts is this concept of Akshara, Uttama Purusha. Okay? Right. Okay, Ramji? Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So the one is to understand it as a matter of fact, but what is the abhyasa for you is to start relating to God beyond the areas or the forms where you are currently relating to. You are able to see God in a particular area or a concept or ideology or an idol, but to go beyond that and start seeing the same Brahman, because it is there. The entire perishable world is God. So that the growth is to start seeing where you don't see. Those who see God in Shiva, to see God in Vishnu also is the first step, because Shaivites and Vaishnavites are like gods and demons fighting all the time. Isn't it, Gayatri Ma? Huh? How to put Namam, this way or this way? So Shaivites think we are correct, Vaishnavites think they are correct. And in the name of God, they are all the time having differences. So the Shaivites must see God in Vishnu, Vaishnavites must see God in Shiva. That is the first step for spiritual sadhana for them. Very difficult. Okay. Yes, Hariji.
Guruji, can we say that beyond the perishable and imperishable is the tattva or the principle, like jiva tattva or life principle, life tattva?
No, it's the same thing. The same tattva, the life principle is in the perishable. The same tattva, the life principle is in the imperishable. The same tattva, life principle is the Uttama Purusha also. It is just trying to expand your ability to relate to the grandeur of what Brahman is. So they are giving in 3 steps only to gradually help you raise to the true magnanimous or the magnitude of what Brahman is. I can't bring down God to a sanctum sanctorum and lock him up there and I will chant Suprabhatam to wake up God. It will be a tragedy of all if God were to go to sleep in the night. Oh, 11 o'clock, God also has gone to sleep. 4 o'clock, we'll wake up God. Huh? Imagine God were to go to sleep. What would happen? Hariji, what would happen if God were to go to sleep?
It will be dark.
Dark in that. You will not exist. I will not exist. The whole world ceases to exist. So does it have any meaning to wake up God? Oh, I've got that extraordinary darshan in the early morning where these Brahmins will come, the Pandits will come, and they will open the doors of the sanctum sanctorum of Lord Tirupati Balaji. And I've had that extraordinary darshan of standing and seeing Suprabhata Puja, Suprabhata Seva. What are you talking? Waking up God? And you will not mind going to great lengths to have that extraordinary Brahma Muhurtam darshan. Fundamentally, you are wrong. How can God be put to sleep and God be told to wake up? See, you may, as Rajima is saying, that is bhakti. On the contrary, you may say all what you are talking is jnanam, and this all. I know she is not saying that. In no means she is suggesting that, but it should not be. It is mere dry intellection, empty words with no substance. What feeling that arouses, and I'm talking with experience. I've had wonderful such experiences of going to Lord Balaji Tirupati. Wow. In fact, younger days, every year, sometimes twice, thrice a year, we used to go to Balaji for darshan. I was brought up in that way, and I had many such experiences of getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and being there just before the first darshan you would have. And it's certainly a very inspiring moments of your life. I'm not ridiculing it, but if you are not able to get the same inspiration with what we are saying now, that God cannot be put to sleep and God cannot be told to wake up, I get the same inspiration when I say that. It's not mere dry intellection, please. You must feel what that, in fact, the term he uses here is swarat. Swarat means self-luminous. When they do the arati, when they do the arati is they light the camphor and they do the arati. That's when in traditional temples you have the glimpse of the Lord. Otherwise, there's not much light. As you all know, the traditional temples, the sanctum sanctorum is intentionally kept dark. So the only time we have the darshan of the Lord or the clear darshan of the Lord is when the arati is done. And what is that, Rajima, the mantra which is chanted when the arati is given? Do you know the mantra?
Yes, Guruji.
Please sing for us.
No, Guruji. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandraka tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kuto yamagni tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvam idam vibhati.
Perfect. This is the mantra, and she did it in prose, I'll do in poetry. That's only difference. Na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyuto bhanti kutoya magnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya bhasa sarvamidam vibhati. This is the mantra that is chanted while the arati is done, And the literal meaning, it says, na tatra surya, na chandraha, na tarakam. The sun, nor the moon, nor the stars can illumine you. What can the mere arati illumine you? So when you talk of bhakti, when you have the darshan of the Lord, when you are aroused, that spiritual arousal comes because of the darshan of the Lord, you are being told the God within you cannot be illumined. It is self-luminous. This is the Vedic mantra the Pandit is chanting, and it is the job of the Pandit to educate the devotees that God is within you. It can't be lit by the mere burning of camphor. It is something which is self-luminous, and this is where it is said. So bhakti, true bhakti and true jnanam are not divorced to each other. Please remember that. One who is immersed in true jnanam is elevated to the same spiritual experience one who is immersed in true bhakti. So bhakti and jnanam are one and the same. They are not divorced to each other. One who gets into the true spirit will not see one contradicting the other. So going and seeing the Lord in a temple and relating to the same God as the Uttama Purusha is the same one and the same thing. There is no contradiction, please. So Hariji, the same life-giving principle is there in every step, in every aspect in the Trinity. Kshara, Akshara, Uttama Purusha, all are one and the same. He's just trying to help you mature to that understanding. Okay? So self-luminous Swarat means it doesn't need anything external to illuminate. Like the sun is self-luminous. It can illuminate itself by itself. It doesn't need anything external. Okay. Yes, Raghu Garu. Good to see you. Seeing you after a long time.
Yeah, Hariom Guruji.
Yes,
I've been attending the classes, but most of the time on the audio. Today I came on the video. So
all right.
I have
Okay.
one question, Guruji. It is funny, but it may hurt a lot of people as well. Like kind of when we
Then
say
you
the
ask me
Suprabhat
privately,
Seva,
no? Then you ask me privately, no? Why do you? We don't want to hurt anybody.
but I would just make a fun of it as well. Like say,
We should not, please. I would request you. I don't know what you're getting to, the platform, or we should never ever demean. I used the words earlier. Demean or insult any specific
no,
practice. Okay, please.
no,
You're free to ask. I think we all are well educated here to understand the context. But please go ahead, sir.
yeah, I'm not here to demean or myself. I'm pointing to something is like you go to the ocean and do something, and the ocean is bigger than the individual self, and the shastras and all these things are going to be the ultimate winning stuff. Not a single individual can do a lot of damage or any elevate. I cannot elevate it. I cannot degrade it. I cannot just do anything. All I can do is just look at it. But my question was a different thing. All these Americans, and I've been here for 3 years. I see these people, the way they do the things, and they don't know anything about Vedanta. And they don't know anything about other things. Somehow they are getting an advantage above the other country people. This is probably may not be a relevant question, but what is that something I observed is the truth, I think, is the only thing they're following. They speak a lot of truth. And is there anything Like say, if somebody follows just the truth, is he going to be having a lot of benefit, or somebody just bluff and do all these other things? Will he going to get the most benefit? Because I see the way it is, I see Americans are following a lot of truth, and when it comes to our own people, there is a lacking in speaking truth.
So if you don't mind, maybe the question is little beyond, or it has a certain vagueness and is out of context. Let's take it one-to-one. Okay, I'm reachable. You have the sources to connect with me, the channel. Connect with me, we will take it up. I think it just is slightly out of context. I wouldn't say the question is right or wrong, it's out of context. Okay, we'll come back to it. Okay, in private. Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks for your understanding. No, it's also important that when we are in the text, try to keep in line with the text so that we all don't lose a line of thought or track, because a great care is taken to bring out the essential element of the text. Okay, right. Yes, Harish.
Hariam Guruji.
Yes.
Guruji, you mentioned earlier that in the temples, especially the South Indian temples, the temple sanctosanctum is intentionally kept dark internally. Can I understand the reason why, Guruji? It's kept dark intentionally.
So a traditional temple, the rest of the temple is well lit. As you know, any traditional temple has 3 layers. The outermost layer is open to the sky. The 2 innermost layers are covered. The outermost layer is exposed to the sky, refers to the gross body. The 2 inner layers, which are covered and sheltered, refers to the subtle and the causal, which are inside, internal. So you typically, when you have to go to the sanctum sanctorum, you go through the 3 layers, the 3 circles, the outer layer and the 2 inner layers before you reach the sanctum sanctorum. This is the traditional temple I'm talking about. And when you cross these 3 layers and come into the place where the sanctum sanctorum or the deity is kept, the temple, the rest of the temple is well lit. But where the deity is kept, that sanctum sanctorum is kept dark with just a small lamp, an oil lit lamp, which is constantly lit. So the temple is not fully dark, but there's barely any light where you can have actual darshan. So you do see, but you don't really see. So it is intentionally kept dark in such a way. Now, the primary reason why it is kept dark is to convey to the spiritual seeker that you do not know the God within you. You have not realized the self. You're ignorant of yourself. You may know your outer self. You may know your inner self, but you do not know your real self. I know my physical body, which is the outer self. I may know the inner self, which is the mind and intellect, but I do not know my real self. Just to convey that in a profound manner, the sanctum sanctorum is intentionally kept dark. And the only time you have the darshan of the Lord is when the camphor is lit. So the camphor is lit with the lamp that is there. The camphor, when it's burned, you have the darshan. Camphor symbolizes the vasanas. So the camphor and vasanas are the same thing. How is it the same thing? Vasanas is derived from the root vas. The vas means fragrance. I repeat, Harish. Vasanas and camphor are one and the same, as I've said. Vasanas the derivative word of vasana is vas, which means fragrance. So camphor, if you leave a pure sample of camphor in open air, it volatilizes because it's nothing but fragrance consolidated, isn't it? Fragrance consolidated is camphor. Similarly, the formless vasanas creates the solidarity of the form of who you are. So what is the fragrance of Harish? Means what is the nature of Harish is determined by the vasanas. Oh, Harish is a very kind man. Where does Harish get his kindness from? From the vasanas. Isn't it? So vasanas is the root of your personality. You understand that, isn't it, Harish? Vasanas is the root. So it is the vasanas that form you. Just like the camphor is nothing but fragrance, which is formed. So the fragrance of an individual and the fragrance of a camphor, there's a parallel. So when the vasanas are burnt, you get the darshan of the Lord, which is you attain self-realization, which is exactly the same way. When the camphor is burnt, you get the glimpse of the Lord. So I've given more than just what the Sanctum Sanctorum means. I've just given you a brief overview as to how a temple is constructed. In fact, if you examine carefully, a temple is constructed exactly how a human being is constituted. So the great men in the past understood a human being and constructed a temple exactly how a human being is constituted. So the symbolic representation is way beyond the very obvious that many go through without understanding what they symbolize. It's very, very profound, very deep. And we also said the mantra which is chanted while the arati is being done, and there's so much more to it. You know, those who uphold this idol worship or temple worship, they are ignorant of it. They just are doing it, the ritualistic part. The onus is on those who are performing those rituals to explain what they symbolize, isn't it?
Yes.
Sadly, that's not done. So everybody is left in the dark. Does that clarify, Harish?
Yes. Yes, it does.
Okay.
And Guruji, I think another participant in Siva also mentioned that the bells are rung during the Aarti as well. Is there a significance why the bells are rung during the Aarti, Guruji? I mean, since we're at the subject.
See, the bell in a temple represents the conscience. So the conscience, or even in certain North Indian temples, you find people also play the conch. The conch or the bell represents the conscience. So the conscience draws you always to the path of the truth or the reality. So the bell, the sound of a bell or a conch reminds you of the consciousness. And the job of the conscience, which is represented here by the bell or the conch, draws you to the path of the reality or the higher. So the moment you hear the bell, instantly you become worshipful, don't you?
Yes.
Instantly you put your palms together, you bow down with reverence and devotion. So the spirit of devotion and surrender, we have all attuned to the sound of a bell or a conch, which is symbolic intellectually is the conscience. So when you look at the conscience, when a conscience hurts you, when a conscience pricks you, that means you are seeking something other than the truth. So the conscience draws you back onto the path of the higher to lead the life of Satyam. That I could be doing things which is not meant to be done. So it draws you back onto the path of the truth. That's what the bell or the conch symbolizes. Are you able to relate to it?
Yes. I now understand why we do this. So many years I didn't understand. I was just tradition, but I wanted to break down the layers to understand it like you very beautifully explained it today.
I'm glad, Harish.
Something I've done
Okay.
for 50 years and I never understood until now. So thank you for that.
No, most welcome, most welcome. You're right. I'm glad. All right. So just to finish the thought process in the text. So Saha Brahman is Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, which is the perishable. Indra is the subtle, which is also perishable. He is also imperishable, Akshara. He is the supreme, which is a Uttama Purusha. That is self-luminous. It doesn't need anything to illuminate. He is the prana. He is the life. He is time. Time refers to the death. So prana and kala refers to time. Prana and kala. Prana refers to life and kala refers to death. So it means life and death. Death here refers to the gross body, and prana also refers to the sustaining the gross body. So when you take prana or pranayama, when you do conscious breath, it vitalizes life. It regenerates. Diseases get cleansed when you do conscious breathing. You breathe 24 hours in a day, but how long are you able to consciously breathe? If you do even 10 minutes or 15 minutes of conscious breathing a day, you will see phenomenal health benefits. So prana refers to the regeneration of your gross health. Prana doesn't help you in your mind being purified of desires or intellect developing wisdom. That doesn't happen. So don't extend pranayama to give you bhakti and jnanam. It only helps you physical health. So prana refers to life, kala refers to death. He is Agni, he is the fire. Fire refers to the terrestrial idol. He is Chandramaha, refers to the heavenly idol. You must think in their standpoint, from their perspective. During the Vedic times, there was no electricity. There were only source of comfort they had when they were in the woods or in the wild was fire. It's so comforting. If you ever lived in a camp in the woods, imagine being in the dark, not knowing what's around you. What give you comfort is just that fire. So comforting. It protects you. So fire is used as a object of worship. So much so fire becomes an integral part of any ritual in every religion, in some form or other. Fire. So fire refers to the terrestrial idol and the moon also, which gave them some indirect light at night. So they looked at the moon and worshipped. Obviously sun is worshipped, but moon also here is divinized as a heavenly idol. So what they are doing is they are divinizing every aspect of their life so that the journey leads them to the higher. The concept of divinizing is like, during a festival, invariably it's Indian tradition, you buy new clothes. When you buy new clothes, the first thing we all used to do, I don't know how often people still do it now, but they put kumkum and they put it in the prayer room. So even before you wear the new clothes, it is divinized. Whether it is not, you are wearing this it's not glamour and fashion, but it is whatever it is. You fill in the blanks. It is not a fashion parade going on, but it is remind you that it is not a mere physical exercise. Okay, so when you understand the deeper connotation, you understand the beautiful meaning, what the mantra means. We'll just chant the mantra once together, and then we will come back to the text next week. Okay, just once, please. Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sendra, Sokshara, Parama Swarat, Sa Eva Vishnu, Sa Pranaha, Sa Kalogne, Sa Chandramaha. Once again. Sa Brahma, Sa Shiva, Sendra, Sokshara, Parama Swarat, Sa eva Vishnu sa pranaha, sa kalognis sa chandramaha. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.